Hey everybody out there, this is Seto Kaiba from your Yu-Gi-Oh! Chat channel, and today for you guys I'm going to be profiling my Marauding Captain deck. Now you may be asking yourself, what the heck is a Marauding Captain deck? I've never even heard of a Marauding Captain deck before. Well, this is a deck that I made on my own, and the reason why I call it a Marauding Captain deck is because Marauding Captain plays a major part in this deck and how it functions. And he's the only monster in the entire deck that you run 3 of. So that's the reason why he got the name Marauding Captain deck. But this deck is pretty much an XYZ synchro deck. I made this deck about 2-3 years ago now when XYZs first came into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Amazingly enough, we got Pendulum Summoning now, so maybe eventually I'll put Pendulum Summoning into this deck, depending upon what it is, but I digress. But I made this deck when XYZs first came into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But Synchros were still better than XYZs at that time frame. But it was a deck that I made so I could understand how to XYZ more, some different types of ways, different type of monsters I could use to XYZ with, and that's why I built this deck. It's a very good deck. It's a non-archetype type deck. So it's a callback to my older days when Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the early 2000s when archetype, when you played a deck, it wasn't really an archetype deck. It was more just pretty much a whole bunch of generic good monsters, and that's what this deck is kind of like. So if you played back in the old days and you're getting back into the game, this is a perfect deck for you to get back into the game and learn the new type of ways to play the different cards. But without further ado, guys, I'll go over this deck profile. I'll show you the different cards, some of the different combinations. It's a lot of generic cards, so you have to keep that in mind. They all work together, though. But without further ado, guys, let's get on started to the Marauding Captain deck profile. So, guys, first off, we have the 3 Marauding Captain in the deck. Now, Marauding Captain helps you make XYZs and Synchros in this deck, as well as you can do the Marauding Captain lock. For my old school players out there, you may remember what the Marauding Captain lock is. And that lock is if you have 2 Marauding Captains out on the field, your opponent can't attack either one of them. So they can't attack you. So it's a very good stall tactic for this card, but his main focus is to make XYZs and Synchros. Next up, you have 2 Goblinberg. Goblinberg serves as the same function as Marauding Captain, but you only want to run 2 of him. You can recycle Goblinberg if you need to, but Goblinberg helps make you level 6, 7s, and 8 X Synchro monsters, as well as level 4 Exceeds. Next up, we got 2 Trident Warrior, and Trident Warrior works well with Feedback Warrior and Shining Knight, which I'll explain why here in a second. Let me get those cards for you. So if I normal summon Trident Knight, I can either special summon Shining Knight in defense mode. That way he's a level 4 Exceed. Or I could special summon Feedback Warrior and knock Trident Warrior's level down to make him a level 3 star monster, and I could Exceed for a level 3. So he has versatility in that respect. Plus he's an 18 beat stick, so he's the beat stick of the deck pretty much. But he's a very useful monster, and he's a light target because we do run BLS in this deck, because we have a good mixture of light and dark monsters, so we can run 1 BLS. Next up, we run 2 Gravekeeper Spy. If you were used to running just 2 Tour Guides in some of your other decks that you play, don't be afraid to just run 2 Gravekeeper Spy. I think maybe one time in about 50 duels I've ever gotten 2 Gravekeeper Spy in my hand. It's very rare that I get both of them in my hand when I play this deck. But pretty much it's an instant level 4 Exceed, or you can keep one in defensive mode, get the other one out, normal summon a level 4 tuner and make a level 8 and still have a monster in defensive mode in case things go wrong. So there's a whole bunch of different versatility things Gravekeeper Spy can do for the deck. Next up, we got Shining Knight. Shining Knight is a 19 defender. He can be used for making level 3 Exceeds and level 3 and 4 Exceeds depending upon his position. Plus he's a 19 defender, so you can put him down in face mode if you're afraid your opponent's going to attack you. So that's very useful. Next we have Feedback Warrior. Feedback Warrior helps works well with Trident Warrior, Goblinberg, and Marauding Captain to make level 3 Exceeds. That's what he's in there for. Next up, we run 2 Rose Warrior of Revenge. I'm considering maybe dropping one of these down for a Delta Flyer. I go back and forth, but Rose Warrior of Revenge works well with Goblinberg and Marauding Captain because you can make level 6 and level 8, level 7 and level 8 synchro monsters. So 7s and 8s. Next, you run 1 Delta Flyer. This is one of the other tuners for the deck. He can, depending upon what you want to make, if you want to make a level 8 or level 7, you can switch his star count on another monster. So, say I get Marauding Captain out. Okay, so I normal summon Marauding Captain, special summon Delta Flyer, activate Delta Flyer's effect, making Marauding Captain's level go up to level 4. That way I can exceed for, I can synchro up for level 7. So Delta Flyer works well in that respect. I may knock another Rose Warrior of Revenge down to put another Delta Flyer in the deck. And the last tuner of the deck is 1 Unknown Synchron. This is just in there for making a level 5 Catastor or whatever you want to, but he works very well in the deck. Plus he's special summonable. We run 1 Zubaba Knight. It's a 16 beater. His effect is not that bad. If you're attacking a face-down monster, you automatically destroy it. I believe that's the effect. But he's very useful. He's the only card in this deck I've considered replacing with something else, but I just haven't found something that's a level 3 warrior that I personally like. 1 Breaker the Magical Warrior. It's a good standalone monster. It's a 19-beat stick with the counter. You can pop the counter to use it as an MST, so it's very useful in this deck. We run 1 Fire Fencing Ferret, probably one of the best standalone monsters that has come out in recent memory. But Fire Fencing Ferret works very well. It's level 4. It's a 17 attacker. Plus it can destroy things, destroy a monster, and take 500 damage. I did win a battle just because of that 500 damage, so it works well in this deck. 1 Gagaga Cowboy, not 1 Gagaga Cowboy, forgive me. 1 Gagaga Magician, so you can manipulate your levels of your monsters, depending upon which monsters you like. A Trident Warrior or Marauding Captain, you can make him a level 3. Goblinberg, you can keep him a level 4. There's a whole bunch of things the 1 Gagaga Magician works out for in this deck. 1 Blade Knight. You will notice when you start playing this deck, I know some people say, well, let me just replace the Blade Knight. Well, first off, it's a light target, so it works well with BLS. Second, Blade Knight works well because this deck, you're going to eat up a lot of your hand advantage, so you're not going to have a lot of cards in hand. You will find yourself many times in this duel having 2 or less cards in hand. So getting a 2000 beater out like Blade Knight is very useful when you have his effect off, when his effect goes off. 1 card which I doubt many people have never even heard of unless you're an old school player, and that is Quirky Mirror Berserker, or Blitzkrieg I call him. But Blitzkrieg, pretty much Berserker here states that you have to reveal 1 warrior type monster from your hand, and this deck has a sprinkling of spellcasters to give the deck an extra boost, but warriors are its main focus, so it's spellcasters and warriors. But you can reveal a warrior to keep him on the field alive, but if he destroys 1 monster, you can attack again. So he's a 2000 attacker, and he has won me games because he can attack twice. Next, we have the 1 amazing BLS, the Black Luster Soldier himself. Works very well in the deck. He's pretty much the boss monster of the deck. Very easy to get him out. You have enough light and dark targets. If you want to add a Chaos Sorcerer, go right ahead, but I just prefer the BLS. Next, we have 1 Injection Ferret Lily. You may say, why the heck are you running Injection Ferret Lily? Well, originally when I made this deck, I put Injection Ferret Lily in because of nostalgia. I loved her back when she was back in the day when she was such a good card. But then I noticed that she actually had a purpose in this deck. She could get over big problematic cards very easily, just like the old days, but she was a level 3. So if I didn't want to pay the 2,000 life points to make her 3,000, I could use her for Exceeds. So that's why she stayed in the deck. Very useful card. Same thing goes for Marsh Mulan and Grand Mole, which are the last 2 monsters in the deck. Marsh Mulan, because this deck is a little slow and sometimes you need a stall, you put Marsh Mulan in the deck. That 1000 life point damage comes in handy as well. And Neo Grand Space Bolt takes care of problematic Exceeds and Synchros with this deck. that this deck runs into. That is, excuse me. Next up, we run for your spells 2 Warrior Returning Alive. Like I said earlier, this deck has a sprinkling of spellcasters, but its main focus is warriors. So you can reuse cards like Goblinberg, your Marauding Captains, your Trident Warriors, any other warrior type monsters you have in your graveyard, so you can make more Exceeds and Synchros. Next up, we run 2 MSTs. Very good card. I do run 1 Swords of Revealing Light because sometimes this deck needs to stall. It needs to get some more cards in hand, but 1 Swords of Revealing Light works well. 1 Dark Hole, 1 Book of Moon, and 1 Reinforcement of the Army, and that rounds out all the magic cards. Reinforcement of the Army, it's got a lot of warriors in the deck. You can search out your key pieces. Dark Hole, just a good card. Same goes for Book of Moon. Next up, we have 2 Mirror Force, just 2 generic good trap cards right there. We got 1 Bottomless and 1 Compulsory Evacuation Device, thanks to the TCG ban list. These 2 traps, you can run 2 Fiendish Chains if you want to, but I personally just like running these because it's fun, and this deck is more of a fun deck for me, with a whole bunch of old cards, that is, and that is Magical Cylinder and Scrap Iron Scarecrow. Scrap Iron Scarecrow comes in handy if you want to keep some of your monsters on the field so you can make Exceeds with them later on, or Synchros. Magical Cylinder, it wins me games in this deck more than it has in any other of my decks. I can't tell you how many times people forget about this card and I just win the game. I even had a guy one time attack me with I think it was an Obelisk the Tormentor, and I activate Magical Cylinder and I won the game just because of this card. So it comes in handy. Next up, for my extra deck, guys, you can run whatever you want to in the extra deck. This is just what I have on hand as of right now and what I usually go into. So I put 2 Leviathan Dragons in the extra deck. This is your main level 3 monster that you will go into most of the time. So that's why there's 2 of them. We have Tempo, and we have Wind Up Zen Mines as your other 2 level 3s, just in case. Level 3s and level 4s are what you mostly go into in this deck. That is the main focus of this deck, is level 3s and level 4s. And level 6, 7s, and 5 Synchros. 1 Utopia just comes in handy for a beat stick and other purposes. Gaga Cowboy, Photon Poppy Appetive, Maestro, just good level 4 monsters right here. For your Synchros now, I run Catastor, Gaia, the Force of Earth. You can replace this card with that new card that just came out, the Insectotron, I think it is, Insectotron. That's what this is going to get replaced by eventually. For your level 7, I run 1 Scrap Dragon. You can run also if you want to, oh gosh, I forgot. I had a brain fart, forgive me. The Rose Dragon, I forgot. Forgive me, I have a brain fart right there. But whatever. For my level 8s, I run Stardust, Colossal Fighter, and Scrap Dragon. And that rounds out the extra deck. Colossal Fighter can get very big. You can abuse his effect because there's a lot of warriors in this deck and just 2 generic good level 8 monsters. And that is the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. So, guys, I hope you all enjoyed my Marauding Captain deck profile. It's one of my more casual decks that I play on the side. It's actually a good teaching tool, this deck is. I've actually taught about 3 or 4 of my friends to duel using this deck because it's very simple and it's very effective. But till next time, guys, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and I'll see you guys next time. Seto Kaiba, I'm out of here, guys.